Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is David Novak. I have a number of things I want to touch upon in this video and no clear program as to how to go about doing that. So I've brought some of my books out. I don't have any notes pre-written, so if I forget something, well, that's how it is. Today is March 14th, 2026. This will be posted on March 15th, the Ides of March. And today, the purpose is twofold. Number one, I want to open my new books, which came in the mail today, and talk about them a little bit. And then talk about my channel, as it were, which I am intending to pull away from a little bit. I'm not going to shut the channel down, but I am intending to pull away from it a little bit. But first, let me start with the books which came. Lulu did a pretty good job this time. I ordered them a week ago on Friday, and today is Saturday, so they usually don't come that fast, but this time it did, so kudos to Lulu. Now, I don't know how these books are going to look. These are, of course, the initial copies, but I think as far as what can be proofed, has been proofed pretty well, so I'm not worried about any oddities. But I've heard that sometimes when people get their packages, the pages are crossed. So what should be an odd numbered page is on the facing side and that kind of thing. I don't think I made a mistake with that. I haven't yet, but it's possible. And so that's one of my nightmares. So I've got two new books. One of them is Reinaldo in Sequence. This was the big, most recent project that I was working on. And because I had to subscribe to Microsoft Word for a month in order to get it all uploaded to lulu.com. And I will put a link in the description box for my books. You can check my whole oeuvre. But since I had to do that, I decided to put out another book. This is very old, Notes on the Cultivation of a Harem. I really don't care for the font up here. You can see the relative sizes. This is less than 100 pages, and this maybe is 150. I decided to go easy on myself and simply not paginate. When you put in the pagination, it's just a lot more trouble. So everything is looking about how I could have hoped. Yep, I think this is about how I could have hoped. I can see things that I would have done differently. One of the things you have to do is, well, you don't have to do, but one of the things which is nice to do is to put something on the back cover. Just at the last minute, I decided to put a blurb about one of my older books, and you can't even see it, and it's very big. I didn't realize it was going to be so big. But be that as it may, we work with as good as we can do. Now, this didn't have anything. This one, I guess I just left blank. This was me in Argentina last year. This is the one that I love. This is a painting. I have no idea where it is. You can easily Google it, though. I imagine it's in Europe somewhere. Just love this painting. It has been my icon at various times. Back in the day when I was on Facebook, I used it. And I really should switch over my YouTube icon to this because I like it so much. So, Reinaldo in Sequence and Notes on the Cultivation of a Harem. This book, I gather, as best as I can determine, was written when I was younger, of course, was written in 1994. That's what I think. I wrote something to that effect, and I think 1994 was the date. It's got to be, well, anyhow, it doesn't matter. If you get this book, you can read what I wrote and you'll know when approximately it was written. And this one, of course, was finished either in January or February of this year, 2026. So I will get back to those directly. So in April, there is a BookTube event coming up. This is hosted by Roz at Scally Dandying About the Books, by Hannah at Hannah's Books, and by Brian at Bookish Texan, maybe? I'm not sure what the name of Brian's channel is, but they are all BookTube stalwarts with huge channels. And the purpose of the event, it's, what did I say it was? People April, or People April, I think. I will put links in the description box to the explanatory videos of each of these booktubers talking about the event. But I just wanted to discuss one entry, which I think might be a possible book that you might like to read, and that is Before Night Falls, the memoir of Reinaldo Arenas. Okay, this was the inspiration of the book that I finished writing, and it is a memoir finished, I think, very shortly before his own death of AIDS. And I am not sure to what extent he finished it as far as revising and patching it together nicely. My understanding is that he dictated a lot of it into cassette tapes. And it was issued posthumously, so after he had died. And it is a remarkable book. I am constantly saying to people, I don't like memoirs, I don't like biographies, and the focal point of the BookTube event is to read this kind of material. It's broader than that. It can be poetry that pertains to a person, it can be essays and so forth. But particularly, I will point you to the video made by Roz, and there are prompts and stuff which you can add into it. But as with most BookTube events, you can immerse yourself as deeply or as shallowly as you like. But this, I think, is a wonderful book. Let me just read what it says on the back. What year was it out? I mean, he died in 1990, I think. First published in the United States of America in 1993. The shocking memoir by visionary Cuban writer Reinaldo Arenas is a book above all about being free, said the New York Times Review of Books, sexually, politically, and artistically. In Before Night Falls, Arenas recounts his journey from a poverty-stricken childhood in rural Cuba to his death in New York 4 decades later. In between, he tells of his odyssey from adolescent rebel fighting for the revolution, through his suppression as a writer, his disillusionment with Castro, his imprisonment and torture, and his eventual flight from Cuba. Before Night Falls illuminates the importance of Arenas's life as a symbol of the individual against society and of the potential for art to liberate, and confirms the power of the outcast to see and record the truth. In distilled and powerful language, Before Night Falls tells Arenas' own story, a Kafkaesque life recreated in his highly acclaimed novels. So that's a little bit exaggerated, a bit hyperbolic. So it says a poverty-stricken childhood. Well, not exactly. The family was poor, but it was poverty where there was a uniformity of poverty everywhere. And so when everybody is poor, you do not feel it the same way. And that is certainly not a theme of the book. People getting by certainly is. And then I think that the adjective at the end, Kafkaesque, it is nothing like Kafka, honestly. His imprisonment and torture, it does deal with his imprisonment. There are no specific instances of overt torture that I can recall from this. Now, I should say I did not read it from cover to cover. I was mining the text for my book. We will talk about that in a minute. But speaking of torture, that got me to thinking of something. Oh, and now I don't know where. Oh, hold on a second. I just saw something. For those of you who don't know, my country is the United States of America. We have been under rule of the fascist thumb these days. As the fascists consolidate their power, they are building concentration camps, more concentration camps across the country. And we already know that scenes of torture and so forth are occurring where persons classed as undesirables are being detained, even today. But there was something I saw by Timothy Snyder that just came out today, and I thought I would share that with you. So let me see. Let me see. A World Apart. Sorry, I'm having trouble with this. Here it is. A World Apart. And you can see it's March 14th. And I'll just read you the first couple of paragraphs of his missive. Maxim Butkevich, the Ukrainian human rights activist, was held in Russian captivity for more than 2 years. I had the pleasure of listening to his thoughts about freedom a couple of times recently, last month in Ukraine and this month in Canada. I was struck by an experience he had with books and a thought he had about choice. He explained that prison had changed his thinking about violence. It was not, he decided, about making a person do this thing or that thing. It was about the abolition of the capacity for choice. Torture was about the undoing of personhood itself, about turning a person into an object. He was a realist about this in a tradition of East European prison writers. I've read a fair number of prison memoirs. And Arenas touches upon prison. That is a huge portion of this, and I wonder, he was classed as an undesirable by the Castro regime, the Castro authoritarian regime, the Castro dictatorship, because for one thing, he was a writer, but the main, well, and that was a main thing, but also he was homosexual. And so he does linger on the experiences in the prison, or the prisons, actually, quite, quite in detail. So the memoir is graphic. I don't think we would call it shocking today. The back says shocking, but maybe it was in its day. But it is also explicitly sexual. So you have sex and you have violence, and he does not try to ameliorate it in any way. He does not try to tamp it down or make it seem less than it was. Of course, right now, Cuba is under blockade, as it has been for a long time by my country. But right now, they are getting no oil at all. They have no energy. The people are starving and so forth. And things, we don't know where things are going. Trump says he wants to bomb them as well, as he has been bombing the good people of Iran. So we don't know how things are going to go. But of course, Donald Trump was supported by persons who were outcast of Fidel Castro's Cuba. So there is an irony there, that they did not want the dictatorship in Cuba, but they want a dictatorship here in the United States. It's just, as I say, an irony which I don't know how to quite wrap my mind around. Now, I've read little bits from this. It's subdivided into just little chapters, each self-contained, but sometimes fairly seemingly haphazard in their construction, each little chapter, of varying lengths. Some go on, I think, for like 20 pages, some for just half a page. So let me see if I can read you a short one just to give you a sense. Now, I first somehow bought this book 9 years ago and didn't read it all the way through. No, I'm not seeing a short one. This one, The Downpour, was my absolute favorite and remains. Just a young boy in the house while a downpour is occurring, and how he reacts to the inundation. Just very lovely. So I want to recommend this book to you for people, April, the BookTube event. But that said, you might as well take the same story done in poetry, and that is what Reinaldo in Sequence is. I tried 9 years ago to write something in verse and failed. And for whatever reason, this year I took up the pen again, and it gelled, I guess, and it just came through for me. I think part of that is that the autocratic state, the effective prison which the island of Cuba became, presented subject matter that I could not relate to at all. And now that we are under an authoritarian regime, I find a lot more resonances with the life which I see occurring around me. All of the usurpations of individual rights and so forth. So I will say that you may want to get this book before rather than later, because I don't know how long I will keep it up. Now, the words in this book are my words, okay? But it is definitely inspired by Arenas himself. And I don't know if there is an estate, but maybe someone will raise an objection, and if that is the case, I can just pull it because as a poet, I can afford to wait until public domain kicks in. It's not an issue for me. Poetry is, as I have said, an assimilative art. And if you are assimilating something like a classic Chinese play, as I did with the Peony Pavilion, no harm done. I don't think the Chinese people are going to be bothered by somebody telling a mediocre version of their national masterpiece. They're pretty secure in themselves, so I am not worried about it. But when it comes more recent times, who knows? I remember when I was a boy thinking about writing, and this had to have been 8th grade, I think. I wrote a detective story, and I didn't know what name to use for one of the characters, so I used a name that I had heard, and apparently it had been my grandmother's maiden name. And she read the story, and she was so upset by my having used that name. It may well have been the entire name, because the first name was something like Bill or something, common name. I didn't know. But so you just never know. The story of Reinaldo Arenas has been done into a movie, and I think this cover is from the movie, and it has been done into an opera. And so now it has been done into poetry. I've said I don't know how to really classify this, because I would not refer to this book as a poem. Now, my very first big epic was the Requiem, and you will see it says on the top, the Requiem, a poem. That a poem was there by the insistence of my designer, and with a beautiful cover. I could not say no, but I did not put a poem anywhere on the inside. It just says the Requiem. Maybe I'll go off on a tangent. So when I finished writing the Requiem, I thought that that was going to be my final book. Back in the day, everybody wanted to write some kind of an epic work. Well, it's not an epic per se, but it is a big poem, and it is a unity as far as poetry goes. That is why I would call it a poem. And I thought I was done writing poetry. Then the events of September 11th, 2000, what year was it now? 2001 happened, and that brought me out. And then whenever I wrote sonnets, when I was younger, I wrote a different book of sonnets, and this was 2023. I said, okay, I've done a second book of sonnets. This must be my last book, because there's a sort of a unity there, one on each end, a book of sonnets at the start and a book of sonnets at the finish. But then, with the events last year of fascism coming into our country, I wound up writing against fascism. There are plenty of videos of me reading from this book, my most popular seller. I am not going to come back onto this channel trying to hawk my books, just so you're aware of that. And you would have thought that this would be the last book, but no, as it happens, at this point this is, and who knows what else will happen now. Part of the purpose in my stepping back from BookTube a little bit is that I just want to be more immersed in the present and just to be aware of what kind of things are happening. I feel that we are poised sort of at the precipice of a roller coaster ride, and we are just going to see events have their way with us at this point. Once one jumps on the tiger's back of war, or whatever that metaphor is, it is something that is not easily controlled, and you don't know how events are going to play out. There are a lot of reasons to suppose it will not be all that good, but in fact, I'll put a link to it. This one YouTuber that I follow said, following predictions about the war are kind of akin to getting fortune cookies at a Chinese restaurant. They're interesting, but nobody really can predict how things are going to occur. None of us has been in this situation before, so we really don't know. So this is the book, Reinaldo in Sequence. As I say, it's about 150 pages. You could certainly use this as a qualifying book for people in April, the event. So I welcome you to do that. But it is a more compressed story than Arenas. I focused very tightly upon the sex and the violence. Other matters such as being a writer and being living under the unfree state of Cuba, trying to get around the censors and that kind of stuff, that takes the back burner. I mean, it's in here. And let me just remind myself, I posted a poem a couple of days ago about the girls' school that on the first day of this war, my country bombed and killed something like 170 young girls, say preteen to teen. And it's not particularly a good poem. It's fairly trite, but I felt I had to put something up. And I got a message from somebody that was, somebody said, "No school children were killed that day. Where's your gay poetry about all the 100,000 people the Iranian government killed?" And somebody responded to this person under the handle of Bug Bites, B-U-G-G with two G's. Yeah, B-U-G-G with two G's. Anyhow, this person wrote, Bug Bites wrote, "Our government is releasing the info now, too. A girls' school was struck next to a military base. They're still debating if it was a bad intel mistake or just incompetence, but over 100 girls between 7 to 12 were killed." And teachers, I should interject. "Had he written about the Iranians protesting the regime, would you have been any happier? Shaming an atrocity our country committed doesn't lighten what another does, but our country is our responsibility and our right to speak." So I thought about just blocking that person, but I gave them a message to know. I said that I would have something of gay poetry forthcoming. An announcement would be made, and the announcement being made is this book, Reinaldo in Sequence. The sex in here is very gay and very explicit. when it occurs, which is in very many of the chapters. I follow a guy on a YouTube named, well, his handle is Hawk. It's Hawk Podcast, and he occasionally will mention how when MAGA people, when followers of Donald Trump come on and they want to insult him, they always throw out, is he gay? That he is gay. He lives in San Francisco, and he says he knows plenty of gay men who think about sex, gay sex, a lot less than this MAGA cohort does. So I also have found it, back when I was doing readings from Against Fascism, it was very frequent that the enraged comments I got, which occurred occasionally, would say something to that effect. So that is Reinaldo in sequence. And Notes on the Cultivation of a Harem is kind of a real oddity. I was in my, I don't know what I was, early, very early 30s. I matured fairly late, let's put it that way. And it's an essay. I reproduced a little chart from the original. It begins with a prefatory poem. Then there is the essay itself. And then there is an appendix of various sonnets which I wrote. And then I have written a little bit more, trying to put it into context. As I say, something of a weird book, but I thought that it paired nicely with this. I am not encouraging you to buy this book particularly, but I think that it was a book that had to be written. So it is one of those books which may well hold its place in the time forthcoming. It is hard to say. So that is the book. So on to the channel news. I should say that if you really, because I'm not going to be here so frequently, if you want me, this would be a nice place for you to keep in touch. I am of the mind that it is perhaps time for me to become my books. So this notion of being a YouTube persona or BookTube persona, I may well be done with that, but I am not closing the channel because, well, just because it is. It has been very useful. I started the channel up during the first election campaign between, was it the first? No. Yeah, the first election campaign between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. A young man in Kenosha, Wisconsin was murdered at an event. So I wrote a poem. I published the poem on YouTube. And then I decided to make the channel a poetry channel wherein I read works of poetry from all across the spectrum. And that died out at some point. But 3 years ago, in 2023, March of 2023, I went into BookTube. I watched for a while a number of booktubers. I think probably Steve Donahue was the one that ultimately enticed me to take the plunge. So the first video after a hiatus was the release of my book, Songs of the Nights. I talked about this one in a recent video because I mentioned Steve Donahue will often say, "You've got to have something for the gays." That's sort of a catchphrase on his channel. And there are a couple of poems in here that are something for the gays. This book is entirely that. And it was a case of having the Microsoft, I put out another book to follow it. But shortly after that video, my next video, and I think it was also very late in March of 2023, if not very early in April, was my first recent reads video, talking about what I had been reading, and then I have gone on from there. So 3 years has been a very good run. I felt that in the light of the disasters occurring in my country and by my country's instigation, as all of our democratic institutions appear to be crumbling, that videos such as the one I recently made of me packing up some books to move into the basement, I enjoy doing that kind of stuff. It's very fun. Or the one I just did yesterday, showing my recent acquisitions from Amaranth Books in Evanston and talking about my 4 copies of the Quran. That kind of lighthearted, superficial video seems almost obscene to me. It almost seems as if BookTube, for me, is trying to become a form of escapism, and I do not want that. I am not interested in escapism. I had something that happened last year, which was I was part of a reading group on Voxer, and there was some event that happened, something, I think it pertained to the Epstein files, that had a parallel in the book, and I just made some kind of a comment. I mean, I just find things curious, and so I made a comment. But I got a chiding from one of my fellow booktubers. I feel your act of linking current politics and social ills to this decades-old book are misplaced. I hope you'd consider not posting those types of comments, and remember the tone of the read-along and how many people are there to enjoy the ... the story and writing style, as well as the interaction with other readers. So I realized I was obviously in the wrong. People don't want to talk about or touch upon current events in my country. That's fine. It is not my place to impose myself. But to the extent that the BookTube community is such, I want to distance myself from it a little bit. I'm not a particularly sociable person. Early on, Hannah at Hannah's Books said, in these times, you have to make community. And I think the advice is very good. But in my case, I can see that I would be having too much fun doing book haul videos and the like, and I am better off taking that focus away. So I still may, when I finish 3 books, Master Mo, I may well do a video pertaining to that. But as far as sort of the regular content, I practically every day would put something up, even just reading an excerpt. I'm going to try not to do that. And I should say about this fellow booktuber's comment, it would not hurt so much if it were a booktuber that I didn't care about, but it was one of my favorite booktubers who felt the need to approach me in that way. So I feel that 3 years has been a good run with this whole booktube thing. I understand that talking about current events is not for everybody. It is entirely reasonable to have a form of escapism. Some people use reading as escapism. I never have. Well, I can walk that back quite well, but I'm not going to go into a big discussion about that in this video. And now I lost my train of thought. Many of the booktubers that I like do not shy away from talking about what's happening in my country, even if it's just in something of an oblique way to say, given the political climate here today, and I admire those booktubers. Steve Donahue, I think, particularly has not refrained from speaking his mind about the situation. And I appreciate that. But the type of content which is nothing but hauls, oh, look at these books, done by my countrymen, I am finding it less appealing to me. This is a major crisis, regardless of how my country's status or stature declines in the world. It is a big problem for the entire world. And so I think that to some degree I want to get away a little bit from YouTube entirely. I will still check in with your channels if you are a booktuber occasionally, but I'm going to set up some kind of a schedule and not deviate from it, because it's so easy to fall into doom scrolling and the like. As I say, trying to guess or worry about how events are going to unfold is a bit like opening up a Chinese fortune cookie, and it's not something that I need to be doing. So it is sad to say, but I think that BookTube has taken me away from reading somewhat, and I could easily give up the reading, I think, but I'm going to try to stick to my current project of the Chinese philosophers and then Chinese history and see where that gets me. But I have felt under a little bit of pressure, I think. BookTube can feel a bit performative at times, where you are cracking the whip upon yourself to read something just so that you're keeping the flow going. And I don't want to feel that obligation, that sense of obligation, whether it is true or not. So I will still continue to log what I am reading in my book. And as I say, I hope after every 3 books, maybe to come on and do a video. Other things that I had planned, I had a series of videos called My Reading Journey, where I went through all of the books I read in the year, each year successively. So last year was my 4th year, and it was quite an eventful year as far as my project of trying to become a better reader. And I'm just not going to do it. I'm just going to let that fall. So I really take what I say with a grain of salt, please. I really love the BookTube community. I really enjoy everybody's videos, and I do not expect everybody to take the events occurring in my country as heavily as I may do. As I say, it is my function somewhat as a poet to try to be in tune with what is happening. And I truly would be delighted if Reinaldo in Sequence turns out to be my last book, but I am open to it the other way. So I think I will leave off here. Again, my new books just in, I will give them another proofing, and if there is any error that needs correcting, any major thing, I will go on and fix it. But I've looked at the digital files, the PDF files, often enough. So since I know that all of the pages are appearing on the right side where they should be, I am not worried about it. You can see because the template that I used had it, I put all of my other works at the back, which is my habit. Back in the day, the first book that I saw through the publishing process was the Requiem, and I think I had it here. And you can see, back then it was much shorter, but you can see that Notes on the Cultivation of a Harem was already extant at that time. So I will leave off here. I look forward to appearing in your comment section if you make BookTube videos. And that being said, stay tuned. Perhaps there will be more coming from this channel. I have no plans, and I don't know that it would be necessarily bookish content. Thank you for stopping by my channel, and thank you, BookTube.